So I just returned from the theater after seeing Madam Web, and it was really bad, to nobody's surprise. This is going to be more of an unscripted rant or review, I guess, of the movie. I tried to avoid any kind of reviews or ideas of the movie before they were coming up, but yesterday, immediately, first thing I saw when I woke up was some of the poll quotes saying it's really bad, on par with Morbius, some of them saying worse than Morbius, and I tried to avoid them for the rest of the day just because I didn't want to go in with this purely negative mindset. But I can confirm it is one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen, worst comic book movies I've ever seen. So the movie takes place in 2003, which you'll know because they make reference to it constantly, but not in like really subtle or fun ways. One of the ways is that you see a blockbuster in the background early on in the movie. There's a line where Dakota Johnson references American Idol. So it really just takes place in 2003 on a surface level. I'm assuming they did it so that they could tie in these characters in the present day with the Sony universe, or they could tie into the MCU, whatever they thought that they were doing with this movie. In all the interviews, Dakota Johnson is saying that this doesn't take place in a pre-established universe, but I mean, it doesn't as far as they don't reference the other movies, but they reference all of the Spider-Man events, but from like a prequel sense. So in the best way possible, this is the prequel to Spider-Man nobody asked for, where Uncle Ben is a returning war vet who works as an EMT with the future Madam Web. The story of the movie is just basically Terminator, but with Spider-Man characters. That's the easiest way to explain it. Cassandra Webb, or Madam Web as she eventually becomes at the end of the movie, kind of very abruptly too, starts to develop precognitive abilities and sees this man who looks like Spider-Man but isn't. They never really address why he's wearing this costume. It could be like a military tech suit or what, but no, he just wears it sometimes and sometimes he doesn't. Well, he's trying to kill these three young girls who he sees in his visions, eventually becomes the Spider Women, as we saw in the trailer. But as we all know from the iconic line in the trailer, he was also in the Amazon with Madam Web's mother before she died. Some of the worst parts of this movie for me were when they were deliberately trying to tie in Peter Parker, Ben Parker, Mary Parker, all of that into the story. I love Adam Scott. I think he's great in most of what he does, but he has no reason to be Uncle Ben in this movie. And it's weird because they almost try and keep it like it's a big reveal, but they say Ben Parker multiple times. They talk about how he's becoming an uncle. There's an entire scene at Peter Parker's baby shower, which is an event I never thought I would see in a movie. We get to witness the events of Peter Parker's baby shower. And Mary Parker is played by Emma Roberts in the movie, who I forgot was in the movie because she's absent from all of the marketing material. This movie has this weird thing where it's like proud to acknowledge that these very important events in Spider-Man's life are happening, but at the same time, they go out of their way to just kind of vaguely reference it. Like, they'll very proudly throw around, with great power comes great responsibility. Everybody's talking about responsibility. There's a line that I'll come back around to later. But then they'll do things like Cassandra's grilling Ben about what the name of his girlfriend is, and he just kind of like doesn't say it for whatever reason. And it's just like they could have just addressed it. Nobody was really confused on who he was supposed to be at that point of the movie. But of course, the movie ends with Peter Parker's birth. And some of the characters are referring to how much Ben loves being an uncle. And one of them says, yeah, it's all the fun with none of the responsibility. To which Madam Web says in a very like wink to the audience way, oh yeah, that's what he thinks. I just couldn't believe that was a line in the movie. And it made me laugh so hard. There were maybe about 10 other people in the movie theater. And I couldn't really get an idea of if they were enjoying it or not. But everybody was waiting for an after credit scene, which I looked up beforehand if there was one because I didn't want to waste my time sitting in the theater, and it said there wasn't, but everybody was waiting. I'm assuming the expectation was they were going to show Spider-Man, because they do flash forward to the future several times in the movie, and he is never present. In addition to that, we also have each of the Spider-Women who don't develop their abilities in this movie. They just have vague, similar spider abilities that are never addressed. It's very sequel baity, but at the same time, they don't really reveal enough of it to make anybody interested in a sequel. But I'll also say that each of the Spider-Women costumes look really great. Madam Web's is really weird, as we saw already. I'm still disappointed with this movie, though, because it was really bad. It looked really bad. I wasn't that excited for it. But there is, like, a kernel of a good idea here. I don't really love the Madam Web arc as far as like the comics or the 90s TV show go. I think it just adds a really unnecessary detail to Spider-Man's origin and abilities. But the movie could have made it work in a way. I think a lot of people who maybe saw the trailers didn't really realize that this was super connected to Spider-Man will go into this movie expecting this like Final Destination action thriller. And they don't even get that. And I think that's the most disappointing part, is that they had a really interesting hook with the idea of the movie and they just never really fulfill it. They never really build on the visual aspect of like Madam Web changing this future in like a really interesting way. Towards the end of the movie, she just automatically knows what's about to happen and is just telling everybody what to do as it goes. And it just makes the climax really boring to watch, because it's just watching characters who already pretty much know how things are going to turn out for the most part. And they talk about it and they foreshadow it in the movie itself. They talk about how she is like an anomaly of the people who have received these abilities from the spider, because she didn't get any physical abilities. She only has the mental abilities, which would have been really cool to actually see play out, instead of just having this like all-knowing character who takes one trip to Peru and is instantly all-knowing. I'll also point out a plot hole. So Ezekiel Sims finds out that the daughter of the person he killed is currently assisting these three girls. And Sims also has access to like the NSA security system. So then Cassie gets on a plane, goes to Peru for a week, and he never thinks like, oh, I'll find where she's going. Like, she's clearly leaving the country, and he just does nothing about it. I believe that this movie was intended to fit into the MCU at some point. I'm not saying that Disney was okay with the idea of it or that Disney was going to back it, but some of the stars of these Sony movies seem to have thought at one point that this is the same Marvel that's making the MCU. But looking at everything else, the timing of the movie is set perfectly so that Peter Parker could be born and become Spider-Man by the time of Civil War. We never see Aunt May, so it could technically be Marissa Tomei's version of Aunt May. Oh, they also reference that Maddie Franklin is the niece of J. Jonah Jameson in the movie, which was just like completely pointless. I think that's going to wrap up my thoughts on the movie. Thank you for watching. If you end up checking out the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. And also let me know what you think Sony should do with this, because it's only going downhill from here. We have 2 more of these movies to come out this year between Kraven the Hunter and the 3rd Venom film. So I'm wondering if this is going to somehow tie into Venom 3 or Kraven. I personally think they just need to give it up right now. Release Kraven and Venom 3 and then be done with it. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.